Hey guys, how's it going? It's 8-Bit Eric, and we just got an interesting tidbit in the world of Sega. So just recently, Sega released their Sega Game Gear Minis, and those were met with kind of a little bit of mixed reception, but people were speculating, hey, so we had the Mini Genesis last year, the Mini Game Gear this year, what could Sega possibly bring next as far as their mini consoles go? And there was an interesting interview, actually, that the producer of these mini consoles hinted at. He talked about what the next console could be for Sega, and it's big. This could be big. This is hinting about the Dreamcast Mini possibly being a thing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to look at this article from VideoGamesChronicle.com. If you guys are new to the channel, if it's your first time, why don't you go ahead and hit the red subscription button down below. Enable your bell notifications so you don't miss when I upload. So let's look at this article. It says, Sega's next retro console could be Dreamcast Mini, says the producer. Game Gear Micro released in Japan this month, but its producer says the next release must be global. So the Game Gear Micro is Japan only, but Sega, or at least the producer for the Micro, says the next release must be global. So what would be a big hit? The Dreamcast, which has slowly but surely gained a beloved following years late, decades late after it. When it first came out, we all know it kind of just fell down after a couple years. But nevertheless, pretty good system. I was a fan of it. So it says Sega's next retro console could be a Dreamcast Mini, according to the Hardware Line's content lead and producer. So pardon my Japanese. Yosuke Okanari discussed the future of Sega's mini consoles in the latest issue of Famitsu. The publisher's latest mini console, the Game Gear Micro, was released exclusively in Japan this month, and Okanari suggested that for his next project, he would like to deliver hardware that had stronger global potential. So, hinting, suggestion, after this exclusive Japanese, and if you've seen the Game Gear Micro, is this thing. They had about 4 games each. Very tiny. Novel idea and cool, but honestly, I would have rather had a mini Game Gear with all the games put together on one, instead of having to buy separate ones, where we discussed our thoughts on that. But it says, for the next mini, we're considering everything that has been imagined by everyone, he said. Of course, it doesn't mean we can realize all of them. We are also thinking about projects that nobody has imagined. The Game Gear Micro is only sold domestically in Japan. When we do the next one, I feel like the project scope will be much bigger as we gaze upon the world, he added. So, he's basically saying Sega's taking the time to sit down, think about everything that people want to come out, and stuff that people haven't imagined. So they're thinking outside the box, and they want a bigger scope. They want to reach out to more audiences and stuff. They said the next mini console would likely take more time to bring to market than the Game Gear Micro. So we won't be able to release it at this time the next year or 2 years after the Mega Drive Mini. We can't make it that quickly. So this is a big project that's hinted. Likely take more time. So this is going to take a lot more development, a lot more manufacturing time. It has to be something big, like the Dreamcast. It says, I think for the next one, we may go with a concept close to the Mega Drive Mini. If I had to say some names, it could be an SG-1000 Mini or a Dreamcast Mini. So an SG-1000, I don't think globally. I mean, that is a earlier variation of the Master System. I think that was like the card-based console before the Master System. Concept close to the Mega Drive Mini, so that means it will be a console. Dreamcast Mini, I think, definitely points in the right direction. Sure, the Saturn was around between the Genesis and the Dreamcast, but I don't think a Saturn would sell as much as a Dreamcast would. Especially this day and age, the Dreamcast just seems to be really loved and admired by a lot of gamers at this time, more than any of the other Sega consoles besides the Sega Genesis. So it says Dreamcast was Sega's final home console, marking the end of the Japanese company's near 20-year stint in the console hardware market. I remember that day when $99.99 the Dreamcast came out. However, despite its short lifespan, the console produced many critically acclaimed game franchises, including Shenmue, Soul Calibur, Phantasy Star Online, Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, and Rez. So a whole bunch of good little IPs that were made. Console enjoyed a strong launch in North America, backed by a significant marketing campaign, but ultimately sales declined as the Sony PlayStation 2 arrived, and the PlayStation 2 killed it. It absolutely killed. I remember I had one friend down the street that had a Dreamcast. He had some kind of like mech robot game. Didn't play much of it. But anyways, continuing on, they go on to give a brief history of the Dreamcast. They say, despite price cuts and critically acclaimed game releases, Sega decided to discontinue the Dreamcast in March and restructure itself as a third-party publisher. And then we started seeing Sonic games on the GameCube and Sega stuff with Nintendo. It was pretty crazy and surreal to see, actually. So yeah, Dreamcast Mini. Is this a hint that this could be coming? Is this something that they're saying is going to happen? I think most likely, out of all the Sega stuff left, honestly, a Master System Mini, that wouldn't do good in North America. Globally, I don't know. I know that there still is Master System stuff being made in Brazil, at least. But on a global scale, for a company to make a mini console and compete with like the SNES and NES minis and the PlayStation minis and the TurboGrafx minis, it's going to have to be something heavy hitting. That's why I think the signs do point to a Dreamcast Mini being the next Sega retro console. Again, it was actually a really good system, had some great games and everything. It just fell flat because it couldn't compete against the PlayStation 2. I mean, PlayStation 2 was hot. Sega just decided to take the third-party publisher approach. I think a Sega Dreamcast Mini could work, because I know a lot of people that are just big fans of the Dreamcast now, especially these days. People are still picking it up, enjoying it, singing its praises. Every April Fool's, there's always a fake joke rumor that Sega's returning to do a Dreamcast 2. I grew up playing Sega because my older brother was a Sega guy. I could definitely appreciate and go for a Dreamcast Mini. So let's see what happens out of this. I think this is most likely. I think it was interesting that they brought that up and referred to it. And they hinted at it. An SG-1000 or a Master System or a Saturn, I don't think, would just have as much traction in sales as a Dreamcast Mini would. So what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Subscribe if you haven't already, guys. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks a lot for watching, as always.